The morning sun rose over New Eden Colony, painting the sky in soft orange and pink colors. Children ran through the streets, their laughter filling the air as they headed to school. Sofia Rodriguez, 8 years old with bright brown eyes, carried her backpack and waved goodbye to her mother Maria at their front door. "Be careful today, Mia," Maria called out, watching her daughter join the group of children walking down the main street. New Eden was home to 2,000 people who had traveled far from Earth to build a new life on the planet Kepler 442b. The colony sat in a green valley surrounded by tall mountains. Crystal clear streams ran through the settlement, and the colonists had built their homes along these waterways. Gardens and farms stretched out beyond the houses, providing food for everyone. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the porch of the security building, drinking his morning coffee. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been protecting the colony for 5 years now. His team was small but good at their job. Lieutenant Lisa Parker, his second in command, walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. "Morning." "Report, Captain," she said. "All quiet last night. The mining teams found some interesting minerals in Sector 7. Jake nodded and took the tablet. Life on New Eden was peaceful most days. The biggest problems they usually faced were equipment breakdowns or the occasional wild animal getting too close to the farms. The colony was part of the Galactic Cooperative, which meant they had protection from the bigger alien species who kept peace in this part of space. At the school building, 12-year-old Danny Rodriguez sat next to his friend Tommy Chun in their science class. Their teacher, Mrs. Wilson, was explaining how the planet's 2 moons affected the tides in the oceans. Danny looked out the window and saw something strange. A large ship was coming down from the sky, bigger than the usual supply ships that visited the colony. "Look at that," Danny whispered to Tommy, pointing at the window. The ship was dark gray with sharp edges. It did not look like the friendly trading vessels they were used to seeing. As it landed in the field outside the colony, dust and rocks flew everywhere. Administrator Kevin Walsh hurried to the landing area with Dr. Amanda Foster, the colony's main doctor. Walsh was a nervous man who always worried about making the right decisions for the colony. Dr. Foster was calm and smart, the kind of person everyone trusted when things went wrong. The ship's doors opened with a loud hiss. Out came the strangest creatures the humans had ever seen. They were very tall, at least 8 feet high, with scaly green skin that looked like a reptile's. Their eyes were yellow and cold, and they moved in a way that seemed both graceful and threatening. The leader of these aliens stepped forward. He wore what looked like armor made of black metal, and strange symbols covered his chest. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. "I am Warlord Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire," he said. "We have come to discuss business with your colony." Walsh stepped forward, trying to look confident even though his hands were shaking a little. "Welcome to New Eden. I'm Administrator Walsh. We're always happy to meet new trading partners." Dr. Foster stood behind Walsh, watching the aliens carefully. Something about them made her feel uneasy. The way they looked at the humans reminded her of predators studying their prey. "We are interested in the minerals your people have found," Vextar continued. "Our ships detected valuable deposits in your southern mountains. We wish to make an agreement." Walsh's eyes lit up. The colony always needed more resources, and a good mining deal could make life much better for everyone. "Of course we can. Discuss terms. Please, let me show you to our meeting hall." As the group walked through the colony, the Zephyrians looked around at everything. Their yellow eyes focused on the children playing in the streets and the families working in their gardens. Some of the aliens carried strange devices that beeped and flashed as they pointed them at different buildings. Sofia Rodriguez was playing with her friends near the fountain in the town square when the aliens passed by. One of the Zephyrians stopped and stared at her for a long moment. Sofia felt scared and ran to hide behind her friend Emma Chun, who was only 6 years old. "They're scary," Emma whispered, holding Sophia's hand tightly. Captain Morrison watched the whole scene from across the square. He did not like how the aliens looked at the children. In his years as a soldier, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now those instincts were telling him something was very wrong. Over the next few days, the Zephyrians set up a small camp near their ship. They said they needed to survey the land before making any deals. Administrator Walsh gave them permission to explore the area around the colony, thinking it would help with the negotiations. But strange things started happening. Children began telling their parents about seeing tall figures watching them from the forest when they played outside. At night, some families heard unusual sounds near their homes, scratching noises and low humming that did not sound like any local animals. Maria Rodriguez noticed that both her children seemed nervous. Sophia had trouble sleeping and kept asking if she could sleep in her parents' room. Danny, who was usually brave and curious, started staying close to home instead of exploring with his friends. "Something's wrong with those aliens," Maria told her husband Carlos one evening. "The way they look at our children makes my skin crawl." Carlos worked in the mines and had seen some of the Zephyrians during their surveys. "They ask a lot of questions about our families," he said, "wanting to know how many children live here, what ages they are. They say it's for safety reasons, but it feels wrong." Dr. Foster started noticing changes too. More children were coming to her clinic with complaints about bad dreams and stomach aches. When she asked them about their dreams, they all described similar things: tall creatures with cold eyes reaching out for them with long, clawed hands. Lieutenant Parker reported to Captain Morrison that several families had mentioned missing items, small things mostly, toys, clothes, hairbrushes, things that belonged to children. "Could be kids just losing their stuff," Parker suggested, but she did not sound convinced. Morrison shook his head. "Add it to the list and increase our patrols around the residential areas. I want someone watching those aliens at all times." The Zephyrians seemed to know about the increased security, but they did not seem worried. If anything, Warlord Vextar appeared amused when he saw the human guards following his people around. On the 7th day after the aliens arrived, everything changed. Mrs. Wilson had taken her class on a nature walk to study the local plants and insects. It was something they did every week, a safe and educational trip along the marked trails near the colony. The children were excited, carrying their notebooks and magnifying glasses. Emma Chun walked at the front of the group with Sofia Rodriguez, both girls pointing at colorful flowers and interesting rocks they wanted to examine. They were about half a mile from the colony when Emma stopped to look at a strange crystal formation. She called to Mrs. Wilson to come see, but when the teacher turned around, Emma was gone. "Emma?" Mrs. Wilson called out. "Emma, where are you?" The other children looked around in confusion. Emma had been right there just seconds before. Sophia started crying, calling her friend's name. Within minutes, the entire colony was searching for the missing girl. Parents, teachers, miners, and security personnel spread out across the area, calling Emma's name and looking behind every rock and tree. Captain Morrison organized search teams and contacted the Zephyrians to ask if they had seen anything. Warlord Vextar expressed concern and offered to help with the search, but Morrison noticed that the alien leader did not seem surprised by the news. As darkness fell over New Eden, little Emma Chun was still missing, and every parent in the colony held their children a little closer that night. The search for Emma Chun continued through the night. Bright lights lit up the darkness as teams of colonists walked through every part of the valley. Captain Morrison used his radio to coordinate the different groups, his voice calm but worried. "Team 3, check the caves near the eastern ridge," he said into his radio. "Team 7, expand your search to the mining area. We need to find her before dawn." Linda Chen, Emma's mother, walked with the search teams even though her legs were shaking with fear. Her husband Robert stayed at home in case Emma found her way back. Every few minutes, Linda would call out her daughter's name, hoping to hear a small voice answer back. Dr. Foster set up a medical station at the search headquarters, ready to help Emma when they found her. She had treated scraped knees and hurt feelings many times, but this was different. A missing child was every parent's worst nightmare. The Zephyrians joined the search, or at least they pretended to. Warlord Vextar sent several of his soldiers to help look for Emma, but Captain Morrison noticed they always seemed to search in areas that had already been checked. They moved slowly and did not call out Emma's name like the human searchers did. As the sun came up, painting the sky light pink and gold, Tommy Martinez from the mining team found something. He was checking a deep canyon 3 miles from where Emma had disappeared when he heard a soft crying sound. "Over here!" Tommy shouted into his radio. "I found her!" Emma was sitting on a ledge halfway down the canyon wall, alive but clearly scared. Her clothes were dirty and torn, and she had small cuts on her arms and face. When she saw Tommy coming down to get her, she started crying harder. "It's okay, sweetie," Tommy said gently as he reached her. "You're safe now. We're going to get you home to your mommy and daddy." But something was wrong with Emma. She did not talk during the rescue, and her eyes looked strange and unfocused. When Tommy picked her up, she felt cold even though the morning was warm. Dr. Foster was waiting when they brought Emma to the medical center. She quickly examined the little girl while her parents held her hands and spoke softly to her. "Emma, can you tell us what happened?" Dr. Foster asked. "Do you remember how you got to the canyon?" Emma looked around the room with confused eyes. "Cold hands," she whispered. "They had cold hands and they wanted to see inside my head." Dr. Foster felt her heart sink. She found needle marks on Emma's arms where someone had taken blood samples. There were also small marks behind her ears that looked like they came from some kind of medical device. "What kind of tests?" Dr. Foster asked gently. "They looked at my thoughts," Emma said, her voice very quiet. "The tall ones with yellow eyes. They said I was good for learning about human children." Captain Morrison was standing in the doorway, listening to every word. His face was getting red with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "Emma, did they tell you their names?" Emma shook her head. "They talked in clicks and hisses. But one of them spoke our language. He said they needed to study how human brains work when they're still growing." Dr. Foster continued her examination and found more evidence of medical procedures. Someone had taken tissue samples and done brain scans on the 6-year-old girl. Emma's memories of the experience seemed fuzzy, which suggested they had used some kind of drug to make her forget details. Morrison left the medical center and walked straight to the Zephyrian ship. His security team, including Sergeant Mike Davis and Corporal Sarah Thompson, followed behind him. They were all armed and ready for trouble. "I want to speak with Warlord Vextar," Morrison told the Zephyrian guard at the ship's entrance. Alien leader appeared a few minutes later, looking calm and unconcerned. "Captain Morrison, I heard you found the missing child. How wonderful that she is safe." "She was experimented on," Morrison said, his voice hard as steel. "Someone took blood samples and did brain scans on a 6-year-old human child. I want to know who did it." Vextar's yellow eyes showed no emotion. "How terrible. Perhaps she encountered some dangerous local wildlife. These frontier planets can be very unsafe for small children." Morrison stepped closer to the alien leader. "We found microscopic traces of Zephyrian biosignatures at the location where Emma was discovered." "Your people did this?" "Impossible," Vextar replied smoothly. "My soldiers were helping with the search all night. Perhaps your testing equipment is faulty." Before Morrison could respond, Sarah Thompson's radio crackled with urgent voices. "All units, we have another situation. 3 children are missing from the festival area." Morrison felt his blood turn to ice. The colony was having their monthly celebration in the town square. Families gathered there every few weeks to share food, play music, and let the children run around together. It should have been the safest place in the colony. He ran toward the town square with his team, leaving Vextar standing by his ship with what might have been a smile on his reptilian face. The festival area was in chaos. Parents were running around calling for their children, while others held their remaining kids close. Maria Rodriguez was crying and screaming her son Danny's name. Carlos Rodriguez had his arm around his wife while Sofia clung to her father's leg. Danny was right here playing with his friends, Maria sobbed. I only looked away for a minute to help with the food table. Which other children are missing? Morrison asked. Kevin Walsh Jr., said Administrator Walsh, his face pale with fear, and little Amy Parker. Amy was Lieutenant Parker's 4-year-old daughter. Lieutenant Parker was already organizing search teams, but her hands were shaking as she spoke into her radio. Amy, sweetie, if you can hear Mommy's voice, please call out. We're looking for you. This time, several colonists had seen what happened. Mrs. Wilson, the school teacher, had been near the children when they disappeared. I saw them, she said, her voice trembling. 3 Zephyrians came out of the woods. They moved so fast like they had planned it. They grabbed the children and carried them away before anyone could react. Carlos Rodriguez heard this and felt rage fill his chest. They took my boy, he said, his voice getting louder. Those monsters took my son. Other parents were getting angry too. Mr. Walsh was demanding answers from his brother, the administrator. Lieutenant Parker was checking her weapon and preparing to storm the Zephyrian ship. Captain Morrison knew he had to act fast before the situation got completely out of control. He gathered his security team and several armed colonists. We're going to the ship, he told them, but we do this smart. Those children's lives depend on us not making mistakes. When they reached the Zephyrian camp, Warlord Vextar was waiting for them with several of his soldiers. The alien leader no longer pretended to be friendly. Humans, he said, his voice full of contempt, you are so predictable. So emotional about your offspring. Release our children immediately, Morrison demanded, pointing his weapon at the alien. Leader, Vextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your children are safe for now. They are valuable research subjects. Human neural development is quite fascinating, especially in the younger specimens. Research subjects? Morrison felt his anger growing. They're children, not lab animals. To us, they are the same thing, Vextar replied. Your species is still primitive. You do not understand the greater scientific value of what we are doing. The alien leader gestured to his ship. Your colony is now under Zephyrian protection. You will cooperate with our research, or more children will disappear. We have studied your defensive capabilities. You cannot stop us. Morrison realized they were trapped. The Zephyrian ship was too powerful for the colony's small weapons. If they attacked, the aliens might hurt or kill the missing children. But Morrison had one option left, something he had hoped never to use. In his pocket was a communication device, connected to an old emergency system from humanity's early days in space. It was called the Terra Protocol, designed for the worst possible situations. That night, while the colony grieved and worried about their missing children, Morrison made the most important decision of his life. He activated the Terra Protocol and sent a message that would travel to every human ship, base, and colony within 50 light years. The message was simple. Terra Protocol active. Human children in immediate danger. New Eden Colony. Kepler 442b. Military response required. As the signal raced through space at faster than light speed, Morrison looked up at the stars and whispered a prayer. He had just called for help from every human in the galaxy. Now all he could do was hope they would come in time to save Danny Rodriguez, Amy Parker, Kevin Walsh Jr., and any other children the Zephyrians planned to take. In the distance, alien ship sat dark and silent, holding 3 innocent children who had no idea Their disappearance was about to start the biggest military response in human history. The Terra Protocol message shot through space faster than light, reaching human ships and stations across dozens of star systems. On military bases, cargo ships, exploration vessels, and colony worlds, the same message appeared on communication. Screens everywhere. Admiral Patricia Kane was drinking coffee on the bridge of her battlecruiser USS Defiance when the alert came through. She was a tough woman with gray hair and scars from many battles. When she read the message, her coffee cup fell to the floor and shattered. "All hands to battle stations," she announced over the ship's speakers. "Navigation, plot a course for Kepler 442b, maximum speed." Her first officer, Commander Ryan Brooks, looked at the star charts. "Admiral, that will take us completely off our patrol route. Command might not approve." Kane turned to face him, and Brooks saw something dangerous in her eyes. "Commander, when children are in danger, we don't ask for permission. We act. Any human ship that ignores a Terra Protocol call is no longer worthy of serving in our fleet." Throughout human space, the same scene played out on hundreds of ships. Captains changed course without waiting for orders. Merchant ships armed themselves and joined military vessels. Even civilian exploration teams grabbed whatever weapons they could find and headed toward New Eden. Captain Lisa Martinez was hauling cargo between the outer colonies when her ship's computer received the Terra Protocol signal. She had 2 children of her own back on Earth, and the thought of alien creatures experimenting on human kids made her sick to her stomach. "Computer, send a message to all ships in this sector," she ordered. "Any vessel willing to help rescue human children should meet at coordinates 84722199956. We're going to war." But the Terra Protocol message did not just reach human ships. Every species in the galaxy monitored these emergency frequencies as part of galactic law. When aliens heard Terra Protocol signals, they knew something terrible was about to happen. On the planet Vorth Prime, Ambassador Cathara was meeting with her council when the message came through. The Vorthans were old friends of humanity, tall, blue beings with 4 arms and gentle hearts. Cathara had seen humans fight before, and she knew what was coming. "Prepare our medical ships," she told her council. "Human children are in danger, which means a war zone is about to exist. We must be ready to help with the wounded." Council leader Vithon looked confused. "Surely the humans will negotiate with these Zephyrians. Violence should be the last option." Cathara shook her head sadly. "You do not understand humans like I do. They do not negotiate when they're young or threatened. They do not show mercy to those who harm children. The Zephyrians have made the worst mistake possible." Across the galaxy, other alien species were reaching the same conclusion. The insect-like creatures of the hive mind began moving their trade ships away from Zephyrian space. The crystal beings of Nexus Station started calculating safe distances from the coming battle. Even the war-loving Corvin Empire, humanity's old enemies, sent a message to their fleets: "Avoid all contact with Zephyrian vessels. Do not interfere with human military operations in Sector 847. The humans are angry, and angry humans are dangerous to everyone." On New Eden, Captain Morrison waited and hoped. His security team worked around the clock, watching the Zephyrian ship and trying to gather information about where the children were being held. Sergeant Mike Davis used electronic equipment to scan the alien vessel, while Corporal Sarah Thompson prepared weapons and explosives. "I'm picking up life signs in the ship's lower section," Davis reported. 4 human signatures, probably our missing kids plus Emma, since they might have taken her back. Dr. Foster was treating more children who showed signs of alien interference. 2 more kids had been found with needle marks and memory problems. The Zephyrians were clearly studying human children in secret, even before they started taking them openly. "They're drugging the children to make them forget," Dr. Foster explained to Morrison. "But the drugs don't work perfectly on human brains. Some memories are coming back." 8-year-old Tommy Chun, Emma's older brother, remembered seeing a tall figure with yellow eyes near his bedroom window. "It was watching me sleep," he told Dr. Foster. "It had a machine that made clicking sounds." The colonists were scared and angry. Parents kept their children inside and took turns standing guard. At night, the mood in New Eden was getting darker as people realized they were trapped on their own planet with hostile aliens who wanted to hurt their kids. Administrator Walsh tried to maintain peace talks with the Zephyrians, but Warlord Vextar was no longer interested in pretending to be friendly. The alien leader made demands instead of requests. "Your colony will provide us with 20 children between the ages of 5 and 12, Vextar announced during a meeting. "They will be returned when our research is complete. If you refuse, we will take them anyway, and your adults may be harmed in the process." Walsh was sweating with fear, but he tried to sound official. "I cannot agree to that. These are human children, not research animals. I demand you release the ones you've already taken." Vextar's yellow eyes showed amusement. "You demand? You are in no position to demand anything. We have superior technology and weapons. Your small colony cannot resist us." Morrison was listening to the conversation through a hidden microphone. Every word made him more certain that he had made the right choice in activating the Terra Protocol. These aliens would not stop with a few children. They would keep taking more until the colonists fought back or gave up completely. That night, Morrison's communication equipment came alive with messages from human ships throughout the sector. The first vessels would arrive within 18 hours. By the second day, there would be dozens of ships. By the third day, possibly hundreds. "New Eden Colony, this is Admiral Kane aboard the USS Defiance. We have received your Terra Protocol signal and are responding with full force. Hold your position and protect your people. Help is coming." Morrison felt relief wash over him for the first time in days. He activated the colony's communication system and spoke to everyone in New Eden. "Attention all colonists. Human military forces are on their way to help us. We need to stay strong and work together until they arrive. Keep your children safe, and be ready to help our rescuers when they get here." But the Zephyrians were also monitoring human communications. Warlord Vextar realized that his easy conquest was about to become much more complicated. He called his officers together for an emergency meeting. "The humans are sending ships," he told them. "More ships than we expected. Perhaps we should reconsider our position here." His second-in-command, a scarred warrior named General Krixtar, disagreed. "We have hostages. The humans will not attack while we hold their young. We can use the children as shields." Vextar thought about this. "Yes, but we need more leverage. Take 10 more children tonight. The younger ones are better for our research anyway, and they will be more effective as bargaining tools." That night, Zephian soldiers moved through New Eden like shadows. They had technology that made them nearly invisible and equipment that could put humans to sleep from a distance. They planned to take children right from their beds without waking the parents, but Morrison had expected this. His security teams were ready with night vision equipment and motion detectors. When the aliens tried to break into the Rodriguez house to take Sophia, Sergeant Davis was waiting. "Contact!" Davis shouted into his radio as he fired at the Zephyrian soldier. "They're trying to take more kids." The battle was brief but intense. The colonists had prepared for this moment, setting traps and establishing defensive positions around the residential areas. The Zephyrians were surprised by the level of resistance and retreated to their ship after failing to capture any more children. But the failed raid had consequences. Warlord Vextar was now angry as well as worried. He sent a message to the entire colony through his ship's communication system. "Humans of New Eden," his rough voice announced. You have interfered with our operations. As punishment, your children will suffer. For every day your military ships remain in this system, we will cause pain to one of your young. The first will begin tomorrow." Maria Rodriguez broke down crying when she heard this. Her son Danny was somewhere on that ship, scared and alone. Carlos held his wife while Sofia clung to both her parents. Morrison looked up at the stars, knowing that human ships were racing through space to reach them. But would they arrive in time? And would the children survive whatever the aliens planned to do to them? The Tara Protocol had been activated. Now everyone in the galaxy would learn what happened when someone threatened human children. The Zephyrians thought they held all the advantages, but they were about to discover that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. 18 hours after the Terra Protocol was activated, the first human ships arrived at Kepler 442b. Admiral Kane's USS Defiance came out of faster than light, travel with weapons ready and shields up. Behind her came 3 destroyer ships and a heavy cruiser named the USS Thunder. Captain Morrison watched from the colony's communication center as more ships appeared in the sky every few minutes. Each new arrival made him feel more hopeful, but also more worried about what would happen to the children when the fighting started. "New Eden Colony, this is Admiral Kane," came the voice over the radio. "We are establishing orbital command. Please provide current status on hostages and enemy positions." Morrison grabbed the microphone. "Admiral, we have 4 confirmed children held on the Zephyrian ship. Danny Rodriguez, age 12. Amy Parker, age 4. Kevin Walsh Jr., age 9. Emma Chun, age 6, who was taken again last night. The aliens have threatened to harm them if we don't surrender." "Understood," Kane replied. "We are scanning their vessel now. Our rescue specialists are preparing extraction plans." Within 6 hours, 30 human ships filled the space around New Eden. Within 12 hours, there were over 60 ships. The vessels came from everywhere: military fleets, merchant marines, exploration groups, and even civilian ships whose crews had armed themselves with whatever weapons they could find. Commander Ryan Brooks coordinated the arrival of each new ship. His job was to organize this growing fleet into an effective fighting force. The ships came from different organizations and had different types of weapons, but they all shared the same goal. Cargo ship New Boston requesting permission to join the fleet came a message over the communications channel. "New Boston, what is your armament status?" Brooks asked. "We've got mining explosives, plasma cutters, and 37 very angry crew members with personal weapons," replied Captain Linda Chun, Emma's aunt who had flown across 3 star systems to help rescue her niece. "Welcome to the fleet, New Boston. Report to Group 7 for assignment." The growing human presence was noticed by other alien species throughout the galaxy. Vorthan medical ships arrived to help with casualties. The Peaceful Ethereal Collective sent a formal message condemning the Zephyrian actions. Even the crystal beings of Nexus Station offered to provide supplies to the human fleet, but not everyone supported the humans. The Zephyrian Empire sent reinforcements to help Warlord Vextar. 3 more Zephyrian ships appeared at the edge of the system, though they stayed far away from the main battle area. Admiral Kane studied the tactical situation. The Zephyrians had better individual ships, but the humans had overwhelming numbers. More importantly, the humans were fighting for their children, which made them more determined than any alien could understand. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Tony Martinez, the fleet's communications officer, "I've broken through their communication jamming. We can now talk directly to the colony without interference." "Good work," Kane said. "Also, scan that ship and find exactly where those children are being held. I want rescue plans for every possible scenario." On New Eden's surface, Dr. Foster worked with medical teams from the arriving ships. They had set up a field hospital to treat the rescued children and any casualties from the coming battle. She had developed treatments for the alien drugs and procedures to help the children recover from their trauma. "We'll need to work fast once we get them back," Dr. Foster explained to the military doctors. "The aliens are using some kind of neural interference device. The longer the children are exposed, the more damage it might cause to their developing brains." Morrison's security team provided detailed information about the Zephyrian ship's layout and defenses. Sergeant Mike Davis had been scanning the vessel for days and had found weak points in their armor. Corporal Sarah Thompson had prepared explosive charges that could disable specific systems without destroying the whole ship. "The ship has heavy shields and powerful weapons," Davis reported to the fleet commanders. "But their power system has a weakness. If we can overload their main reactor, it will shut down all their systems for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes is enough time for a rescue operation," said Commander Brooks. "But we need to be precise. One mistake and those children could be hurt or killed." The colonists of New Eden watched as the human fleet grew larger and more organized. Parents like Maria and Carlos Rodriguez felt hope returning, but they also worried about their children's safety during the rescue attempt. "What if something goes wrong?" Maria asked her husband. "What if they can't save Danny in time?" Carlos held her hand tightly. "We have to trust them. Look at how many ships came to help us. The whole galaxy knows what happened here, and everyone is watching to see what humans do when our children are threatened." Warlord Vextar was becoming nervous as he watched more human ships arrive. His own reinforcements were still too far away to help in a battle. He had expected to face 1 or 2 human vessels, not an entire fleet. "Perhaps we should negotiate," suggested General Krixtar. "The humans seem more determined than we calculated." "No," Vextar replied, though his voice showed less confidence than before. "We hold their young. They will not risk harming their own children. We still have the advantage." But the alien leader was wrong about human nature. Admiral Kane was not planning to negotiate or make deals. She was planning to rescue the children and punish everyone responsible for taking them. "All ships, this is Admiral Kane," she announced to the fleet. "We are going to give the Zephyrians one chance to surrender and release our children. If they refuse, we will take the children back by force. No alien who harms human young will leave this system alive." The ultimatum was broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship in the area could hear it. The message was simple and clear: release the children or face the consequences. Kane gave the Zephyrians exactly 1 hour to respond. During that time she prepared her fleet for battle. Attack groups formed around the main target. Rescue teams equipped themselves with cutting tools and medical supplies. Support ships moved into position to help with evacuations and casualties. Vextar spent the hour trying to contact his reinforcements and demanding faster arrival times. But the nearest Zephyrian ships were still 8 hours away. He was alone against a human fleet that grew larger every hour. When the deadline passed, Vextar sent his response: "We do not surrender to primitive species. Your children will serve science. Any attack on our vessel will result in their immediate death." Admiral Kane's reply was broadcast to the entire fleet: "All ships, weapons free. Operation Child Shield is now active. Bring our kids home." The battle began with a coordinated attack on the Zephyrian ships' weapon systems. Human ships fired precisely targeted shots that disabled the aliens' main guns without destroying the vessel. The goal was to cripple the ship, not blow it up with the children inside. The Zephyrians fought back, but they were overwhelmed by the number of human ships. Their advanced technology meant nothing when facing 50 vessels attacking from different directions. Sergeant Davis's intelligence proved accurate. When human forces overloaded the alien ship's power system, all their weapons and shields shut down. The Zephyrian vessel was left helpless and defenseless. "Go, go, go!" shouted Commander Brooks as rescue teams launched from multiple ships. "You have 10 minutes before their power comes back online." The rescue teams cut through the alien ship's hull using plasma torches. They moved quickly through the corridors, following maps provided by Morrison's security team. Their goal was the ship's medical bay, where the children were being held. Lieutenant Jackson led the first team into the alien vessel. Behind him came combat medics, engineers, and demolition experts. Every person in the rescue force was a volunteer who had children of their own. They found the 4 missing children in a laboratory filled with strange machines and alien medical equipment. Danny Rodriguez was unconscious on a table with wires attached to his head. Amy Parker was crying in a small cage. Kevin Walsh Jr. and Emma Chun were being held in glass containers filled with some kind of liquid. "We found them," Jackson reported. Over his radio, "All 4 children are alive. We need medical teams down here now." Dr. Foster and her team rushed into the alien ship with stretchers and emergency medical equipment. They carefully removed the children from the alien devices and began treating them for shock, dehydration, and whatever drugs the Zephyrians had used on them. As the rescue teams carried the children back to their ships, Admiral Kane sent a final message to Warlord Vextar. "Your ship is surrounded. You have harmed human children. Surrender now, or we will destroy you." The Zephyrian leader's response was to try activating his ship's self-destruct system. But human engineers had already disabled those systems during the rescue operation. Vextar and his crew were trapped on a powerless ship, surrounded by very angry humans. The children were safe, but the galaxy was about to learn what happened to anyone who threatened humanity's young. The rescue ships carried the 4 children back to New Eden as fast as they could fly. Dr. Foster and her medical team worked on them during the trip, checking their vital signs and removing the alien devices that had been attached to their bodies. Danny Rodriguez was the first to wake up. He looked around the medical bay with confused eyes, not understanding where he was or what had happened. "Danny, you're safe now," Dr. Foster said gently. "You're on a human ship going home to your parents." "The tall ones with yellow eyes," Danny whispered. "They put things in my head. They said they wanted to see how human children think." Dr. Foster felt angry hearing this, but she kept her voice calm and soothing. "They can't hurt you anymore. There are a lot of human ships here now, and we won't let anyone take you again." Amy Parker woke up crying for her mother. At only 4 years old, she did not understand what had happened to her. Lieutenant Parker was waiting on New Eden when the rescue ship landed, and she ran to hold her daughter as soon as the medical team said it was safe. "Mommy," Amy sobbed, "the scary monsters had me in a cage. They poked me with needles and made me look at flashing lights." "It's over, baby," Parker said, tears running down her face. "Mommy's here now, and those monsters are never going to hurt you again." Emma Chun was still unconscious when they brought her to her parents. The aliens had done more experiments on her because she had been taken twice. Dr. Foster was worried about the amount of alien drugs in her system, but her vital signs were stable. Kevin Walsh Jr. was awake, but not talking. He stared at the ceiling and did not respond when people spoke to him. Dr. Foster explained to his father that some children react to trauma by shutting down emotionally for a while. "He'll need time and patience," she told Administrator Walsh. "The mind has ways of protecting itself from terrible experiences. Kevin will talk when he's ready." While the medical teams cared for the rescued children, Admiral Kane dealt with the Zephyrian prisoners. Warlord Vextar and his crew were locked in holding cells on human ships, waiting to face trial for their crimes. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The human rescue teams had found detailed records of experiments on human children. The aliens had been studying human brain development, testing how much pain children could endure, and researching ways to control human thoughts. "These creatures are monsters," Captain Morrison said as he reviewed the evidence files. "They treated our children like laboratory animals. Admiral Kane nodded grimly. The galaxy needs to see what they did. Every species needs to understand. What happens when someone threatens human children? But the Zephyrians were not finished causing trouble. The 3 Zephyrian reinforcement ships that had been approaching the system finally arrived. Their commander, Admiral Zekthal, demanded the release of Warlord Vextar and his crew. "You are holding Zephyrian citizens illegally," Zekthal announced. "Over the communication channels. Release them immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Kane's response was swift and clear. "Your people committed war crimes against human children. They will face trial under galactic law. If you attempt to interfere, you will be treated as accomplices to their crimes." The Zephyrian admiral was surprised by the human response. He had expected the humans to negotiate or show fear when faced with more Zephyrian ships. Instead, the human fleet moved to surround his vessels, clearly ready for another battle. "You cannot defeat us," Zekthal claimed, though his voice showed less confidence than his words. "We have superior technology and weapons." "Technology doesn't matter when you're outnumbered 50-1, King replied. "You have exactly 10 minutes to leave this system. Any Zephyrian ship still here after that deadline will be destroyed." The Zephyrian admiral looked at his tactical display and realized the humans were serious. The human fleet had grown to over 100 ships, with more arriving every hour. Even with better individual ships, the Zephyrians could not win against such overwhelming numbers. Zekthal made the smart choice and ordered his ships to retreat. But before leaving, he sent a message to the human fleet. "This is not over. The Zephyrian Empire will remember this insult." Admiral Kane's reply was heard by every ship in the system. "Good. Remember it well. Remember what happens when you threaten human children. Tell every species in the galaxy what you learned here today." As the Zephyrian ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, other alien species began arriving at New Eden, but these were not hostile visitors. They came to offer support and assistance to the humans. The Vorthan medical ships brought advanced healing equipment to help the rescued children. Ambassador Cathara personally visited New Eden to express her people's support for humanity. "What the Zephyrians did was evil," she told Captain Morrison. "The Vorthan people stand with humanity in demanding justice for these crimes." The ethereal collective sent representatives with gifts for the children, beautiful crystal sculptures that played soothing music and helped calm troubled minds. Even the usually distant crystal beings of Nexus Station sent rare healing stones, but the most important visitors were the delegates from the Galactic Cooperative Council. They had come to investigate the incident and determine what legal actions should be taken against the Zephyrian Empire. Council leader Vexan was an ancient being from a species that had helped write galactic law. He interviewed the rescued children, examined the evidence, and reviewed the recordings of everything that had happened. "This is one of the most serious violations of galactic law we have ever documented," he announced. "The Zephyrian Empire will face severe sanctions and criminal prosecution." The trial of Warlord Vextar became the most watched legal proceeding in galactic history. Representatives from hundreds of species came to observe as the evidence was presented. The recordings and medical data showed exactly what had been done to the human children. When Vextar was asked to explain his actions, he showed no remorse. "We were conducting legitimate scientific research. Human children are excellent subjects for studying neural development in primitive species." The collective gasp from the courtroom showed how shocked the other species were by this statement. Even the most warlike aliens understood that certain lines should never be crossed. The verdict was unanimous. Vextar and his crew were found guilty of crimes against sentient children, illegal experimentation, and violation of galactic peace agreements. They were sentenced to life imprisonment on a remote prison planet, but the consequences went far beyond individual punishment. The Galactic Cooperative voted to expel the entire Zephyrian Empire from the organization. Trade agreements were canceled, diplomatic relations were severed, and Zephyrian ships were banned from most civilized systems. Within months, the Zephyrian Empire collapsed. Other species refused to do business with them, their colonies rebelled, and their military fell apart. The empire that had seemed so powerful was destroyed by the reaction to their treatment of 4 human children. On New Eden, life slowly returned to normal. The rescued children needed time to heal, but they were surrounded by love and support from their families and the entire colony. Dr. Foster worked with specialists from across the galaxy to develop new treatments for trauma victims. Danny Rodriguez started talking about his experience, which helped him process what had happened. Sophia was proud of her brave big brother and never left his side for weeks after his rescue. Amy Parker had nightmares for a while, but Lieutenant Parker took leave from her duties to stay with her daughter. Slowly, with patience and love, Amy began to smile and play again. Emma Chun took longer to recover, but her family never gave up hope. Tommy Chun read stories to his little sister every night, and eventually she began responding and talking again. Kevin Walsh Jr. needed the most help, but Dr. Foster's new therapy techniques proved effective. After several months, he started participating in school activities and making friends again. The human fleet that had assembled to rescue the children gradually dispersed, but they left behind a permanent monitoring station. Admiral Kane established a base near New Eden to ensure that no other species would ever threaten the colony again. Captain Morrison was promoted to Planetary Security Director, with resources and authority to protect not just New Eden but several nearby colonies. His actions during the crisis had made him a hero throughout human space. The story of New Eden spread throughout the galaxy, becoming a legend that parents of all species told their children. It became known as the day when every alien learned an important lesson about humanity. Touch a human child, and every human in the galaxy becomes your enemy. Threaten human young, and face the terrible swift response of a species that will cross any distance and fight any battle to protect their children. The Terra Protocol, once an ancient emergency code, became a symbol recognized throughout the galaxy. Not as a threat, but as a promise. A promise that some things are sacred, and that humanity will defend those sacred things with everything they have. Years later, when Emma Chen was grown up and had children of her own, she would tell them about the day when the entire galaxy learned that human children are protected by something more powerful than any weapon or technology. They are protected by the love and determination of every human alive. And in the stars above New Eden, the lights of human ships continued to shine. A perma